Yo, what is up YouTube? I'm Blitz5 and today we got some crazy news for PUBG on the Xbox One. So first, the test server is back up and running, and why? Because we have one of the biggest updates to come to PUBG since release on the Xbox One. So there's really no way around this. This is going to be an incredibly long video. There's so much data here. But if you're familiar with PUBG, this is sort of the change that happened on PC a couple months ago back in the spring, and they're kind of just doing this to Xbox right now. So this is just a lot of quality of life stuff, new content, but it's basically just making the game closer to PC. And once this update comes out, it pretty much will be in line with the same amount of information, damage, attachments, all that stuff that's in the game currently on PC. And this is crazy because this is what we've all been wanting and hoping for. And this is what I've been saying in a lot of my videos, that hopefully they'll give Xbox some love and they'll be on this same kind of release cycle, because it stinks to have one platform so far ahead of the other, even though I realize it came out on PC first. So just so you guys know, the test server came in last night, basically this morning, depending on where you are in the US. So we basically have from July 11th, today is the time I'm posting this video, to July 16th to play this game. So it says July 16th, that's 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're on the East Coast, we have until July 16th at 4 a.m. to play the game. So do the math. If that ends up being like 4 or 5 days, let's not get into all the wonky details. But basically, check it out if you guys want to play this. It's a free download on the Xbox One. If you guys haven't downloaded it before, I definitely recommend it because they open it from time to time. So what I'm going to do here to try to make this a little bit more coherent is I made a little top 5 TLDR list here of stuff that I thought was important for anybody who doesn't have time for the entire video. If you don't have time for this, you can come back, listen to the entire video, or go read this online if you're like busy doing other stuff. It's a huge update. So first, we're gonna start with my TLDR. This is Blitz5's top 5. I'm just kidding around, but that's what we're doing here. So this update has ARs being rebalanced. This means a lot of different things here, but basically across the board, they've decreased the damage, and the AK-47 has remained the same. So this is still the strongest assault rifle. And they've increased reload time on most of the guns by like 30%. So this is a pretty dramatic change. And then also something, this is big news, you can no longer use the 8x scope or 15x scope on the assault rifles. I didn't even know you could use the 15x scope. I'm not really sure, but it says now that the 8x scope is restricted across all ARs. So they're trying to make the 8x scope a specific attachment for the sniper rifles and DMRs. So then with that, we have SMG changes. So there's basically been a rebalance for SMGs on top of them for ARs, and this is number 2 now. They are more effective in close range, and they've decreased like recoil on vertical and horizontal recoil. They've made some other changes across the board here for SMGs, but also know that the micro Uzi, the UMP, and the Vector have been buffed. Then moving on to the sniper, this is number 3. I said this first and foremost because I think this is the most popular sniper across the board for most players on Xbox. The SKS has been nerfed, and there's a new SLR coming to the game, a new sniper rifle called the SLR. Well, it's technically a DMR. It's kind of like the FAL from other video games. This is stronger than the SKS, but it has a lot more recoil, so that's what they say is kind of the balance for this. Then number 4, I included this because level 3 helmets are such a desirable item, and I think it affects some people's play, is that level 3 helmets will now only be available in care packages. There's a lot more changes to do with care package and weapons and attachments that are available, but you're going to have to listen to the entire video to get them. And lastly, number 5, we have the 3x and 6x scope coming into the game. Why did I include this out of all the other changes? Because I think this 6x scope, which is going to be a rare drop, is going to be one of the best items in the game attachment wise, because you can switch between 3x and 6x variable zoom,
4x optical zoom, Schneider lens. This is a big horse.
And to me, sometimes 2x isn't long enough. Sometimes 4x is too long. So 3 seems like it might be a perfect balance. And then if someone's really far away, you can zoom into 6. A lot of times 8x isn't necessary, at least in my opinion. So I think this scope is going to be one of the most in-demand scopes in the game. So I wanted to include that as my top 5 TLDR patch notes. So you can basically walk away. All the other changes you'll learn and play, I think those are the things most important that you need to know as of right now. But let's get into the full update for people who really want to get all of the information. There's a lot of stuff going on here. We'll start from the top. PUBG has included this chart showing all of the weapon damage balance changes coming to the Xbox One. And like I said before, I think this chart pretty similar was available on the PC, if not the same exact thing back in the spring. So again, they're just moving this stuff to the Xbox One. We'll start on the top left here with pistols, and almost across the board, all of these pistols have received a +5 increase to the damage except for the P18C, and obviously not every pistol is on here, but they're giving a lot of love to the popular pistols that we find, especially the P92 and the P1 or the P1911. See these guns all over the place when you're looting, when you first drop in houses, seem to be like the two most common in the game. And I'm curious as to why they're doing this. I think it could be because people don't really use pistols after you get deeper into the game. I know I sure don't, but I wonder if that's the reason behind this, or if they wanted people to have a stronger weapon upon landing and looting, because usually that's when you see people using the pistols the most, is right after landing. Then down to shotguns. More changes here in the effect of the shotgun and the recoil and the range down below, but right here they're just showing that the top two shotguns here, the S686 and the S189-7, and I think that's like the weirdest way to say that. It's probably the S1897 or whatever. They've been decreased by 1 damage point, so not much change here. They're still going to be strong, but the spread is definitely changed down below. Then to me, one of the more interesting changes is the SMGs. So we have a slight buff to the Uzi, the UMP9, and the Vector, and nothing for the Tommy gun, which to me is still like my least favorite. Right after that, I actually don't really like the Uzi, and then Tommy gun right after that. And I want to point back to something, a video I made back in the day, or like a month ago, back in the day in quotations, about the Vector here. So when I was doing stats about all of the weapon damage in the game, I found out that the Vector has one of the fastest times to kill in the game. I wanted to find out what was up with this gun, because some people said to use it, some people said it sucks. And it turns out, like I said, it has the fastest time to kill in the game, especially in the submachine gun category, and in the range of like 0 to maybe 200 to 300 meters. It's kind of short to mid range. One of the fastest times to kill because of the fire rate and also the damage. So this Vector getting another buff, plus down below we're going to be talking about some of the SMG buffs that they had to recoil. They've reduced the recoil across the board, and there's some other changes, but this gun is going to shoot even more like a laser now. If you've seen footage before, it basically already does shoot like one, and it's really steady. All you need is an extended mag. So I don't want to harp too much on this, but I would definitely be looking for the Vector in the test server. I know I'm going to be, because it's going to rip people to shreds in close quarter combat. Then we'll go back up to the top with ARs. The AKM remains the same, no changes, still one of the strongest assault rifles in the game. And then all of the main assault rifles, I say main by the M16, M4, SCAR, the desirables being probably the M4 and SCAR when you're just playing the regular game, even though I like the M16, have been decreased slightly, and the whole AR scene has been rebalanced, which we'll get down to in the nitty gritty below with all the details. Then moving down one more, we got DMRs, which they're really, in this update, I feel like PC already did this. They're separating DMRs from snipers in a big way here. So we got, what I mentioned before, the SKS got a 4-point buff, damage buff, and the SKS seemed to be one of the most desirable DMR sniper rifles in the game at this point. So I think they're kind of balancing that out, and they're also getting ready for the SLR to come in, which is going to be stronger than the SKS but have more recoil, again, which I mentioned in the TLDR video. Then just making some quality of life changes. And one thing I want to point out here is the Mini 14, which is still barely stronger than the ARs, and I'm still not really sure what the point of that gun is. I know the fire rate may be a little bit faster, but at that point I really feel like you're better off using an M4 or the M16 or the AKM for that matter. I really don't see the point of using the M14 anymore after reading all these charts and stats and making these videos recently, but maybe I'm wrong. Then move on to the LMGs. They're getting some buff, and again, in the weapon stats video I made, which I'll link down in the description box below, also found out that the DP28 is a very underrated gun and has an extremely high time to kill. So doing this, increasing it just 2 more damage points, is going to increase this even more, which is incredible. So I think the underdogs here are definitely going to be the Vector and the DP28. Definitely going to be looking out for those. So here in the details, we'll get down to the nitty gritty stuff like I said before. I'm going to read through this stuff kind of quickly because this is going to be a long video, like I said. So shotguns, they've increased the overall damage and effective range. The shotgun chokes and duckbills are now less effective at decreasing spread. So they're less effective at decreasing spread, so the spread will be a little bit more wide. They've slightly decreased the damage, which we saw. They reduced bullet spread, pellet spread, and shotgun chokes can now be attached to the sawed-off. Now for the SMGs, like I said, this is pretty interesting. They've adjusted the SMGs to be more effective in short range, so the vector is going to be awesome. Increased limb shots modifier, which is huge at short range, especially if you're spraying all over the place, if you're shooting over the shoulder. They've increased the damage, which we saw. Decreased vertical recoil, which is great. Decreased recoil and scope sway when moving and aim down sights. To me, this is bigger than vertical recoil because vertical recoil is usually pretty easy to control. They've increased aim down sight transition speed, which I thought was kind of interesting. Usually that's what you want to be faster on a submachine gun and then slower on an AR because it's smaller. And to make the vector a little easier to find, we've increased spawn rates at the expense of the spawn rate of the UMP, which I did not see reading this before I made the video. I kind of scanned through everything in preparation for the video. So this is amazing. The vector is going to be OP. They're going to need to change this eventually. So then on to the ARs. Like I said, they rebalanced this, so none of them are the objective best. The power difference between them has been reduced. We saw the damage decrease. They've increased the reload time by 30%, which I thought was kind of surprising. Then only 10% for the AKM, so this is still the strongest one in the game. Just the recoil is huge. They've increased vertical and horizontal recoil for all for all ARs except for the AK. So I guess this makes sense because the AK already had pretty high recoil, but now and some of the recoils on the ARs is pretty strong, especially the M16. So I really wonder how much they change this because this could really affect the AR usage in the game and make the DMRs really popular. So I think it could. I'm not, ARs are always going to be popular, but this could bring in more of a DMR submachine gun meta. But who knows? Then they've decreased the recoil recovery rate for all ARs. They've restricted the 8x scopes, which again, not a huge deal because I don't think that many people use it, but a kind of just another nerf to add on top of the ARs. Modified recoil animations, which we'll have to see what that looks like in game. And the first shot, including first shot after recoil resets for the M16, now has less recoil, which makes sense to me because, man, does that M16 bounce when you're ripping off shots. It's kind of hard to control. Even though I love that gun, it's made me stop using it. So we'll have to give that a try again as well. Then for the DMRs, again, this is just huge, making the DMRs really worthwhile to use. Increasing the head, body, and limb shot modifier. Again, they've decreased the damage for the SKS, which we know by now. Slightly increased the damage for the VSS and the Mini 14, but probably not enough in my opinion. They've increased the vertical and horizontal recoil for all DMRs and decreased the recovery rates. Added new recoil animations just like the ARs, and then they've increased the spawn of DMRs, which is going to make it more popular. And DMRs now use AR attachments along with sniper rifle attachments. So I don't know what I think about that. Let me know what you guys think about that change down below. Is that just a quality of life change, or is that just going to make the DMRs way more usable and effective in this game, just making them stronger and attachments more available? Let me know what you guys think. I'm not really, the jury's still out on that one. And then sniper rifles, they didn't have this in the chart here, but we do have, they decreased the basic damage of the M24 from 88 to 79. The M24 will no longer drop in a care package. It spawns in the world. So basically the AWM will be the high profile care package weapon, and the M24 will join the car as a findable item in the game. 2 bolt action rifles, which is cool. And now I thought this was kind of weird that both the sniper rifle quick draw magazine and extended quick draw magazine are now only spawn in care packages. I feel like they're trying to take away the extended quick draw magazines from the game or make them less more rare. So I feel like putting maybe one of them in the care package would make sense and leave one of them as just a rare item, but who knows. Then for other guns, they've slightly increased the damage. We saw this for the DP28 and the M249. They've restricted the 8x scopes on these guns as well, and they've reduced the crossbow reloading time, which, come on, 0.5 seconds, not a huge deal, but we'll see. Nobody really uses that gun to begin with, even though I would love to. And weapon sway has been adjusted for all weapons, slightly increased side-to-side movement. Man, this game is already super realistic with weapon sway, so I feel like this is going to make me have a harder time shooting people and adjusting to that. But go for PUBG. They make this game really realistic and awesome. Then getting on to other item balance changes. I hope you guys are still with me. Like I said, this is a long video. I got some water here on the side. Haven't had to use it yet. I'm sure I've tongue twisted a little bit, but let's keep going. Let's get back into it. So, like I mentioned in the TLDR video, we have level 3 helmets now only spawn in care packages, and it's guaranteed to be in every care package. So you're not going to be able to find level 3 helmet in the regular game anymore. Then we've reduced the respawn of AR extended quick draw magazines, which I was thinking about this. Totally makes sense because in this game you don't really have to choose. It makes sense if there's a quick draw and extended mag, you have to choose, right? Do you want to reload faster or do you want to have more ammo in your clip? And in PUBG, the extended quick draw was it was so readily available that you would just pick that one every time and the other two become pointless. So now making this one more rare, you have to make more of a decision, which for me, I think I'll always take an extended mag over faster reload time any time of the day, but that's just me. Then adrenaline syringes now spawn rarely along normal route. Wow, we're to get in tongue twisting time. The adrenaline syringes now spawn. They're rare alongside normal loot in the game, in the world, which is cool. I've only used these a couple times in the care packages, but this just makes sense. Another thing kind of in the game. That'll be fun to use. And they adjusted the casting time of the syringe from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. So now this item is definitely going to be awesome if you find it and very usable. And then the tactical stock and the cheek pad are now less effective at improving recoil recovery rate and improves aim down sight speed. So there we go. Here's a picture of the SLR that's coming into the game. They added this, spawns alongside normal world loot. It's a DMR which has the 7.62 ammo, just like the SKS, 10 bullets per clip, and 20 when extended. And like I said a couple times here, the SLR is stronger than the SKS, but the recoil is a little bit heavier. So that's going to be key to using the SLR effectively. Those are the words of the PUBG community manager or whoever wrote this post. Then on to some other stuff. So man, this video just continues on. They're adding the muscle car into Miramar. We have new attachments. So we got the duckbill for the shotguns, which decreases vertical pellet spread and increases horizontal bullet spread. So just like a wider shot. We got a light grip, which is going to be awesome to use. This decreases first shot and single shot recoil by 15%. So this is going to be huge for a lot of the ARs. This says that it's attachable for ARs, SMGs, and DMRs. So like going to be awesome here. Thumb grip, it reduces vertical recoil but increases horizontal recoil. It also increases the recoil recovery time. So like I said, I think a lot of times you're shooting people at like the time recoil affects me the most is when I'm shooting people at mid-range. Up close, you're kind of just spraying. You don't really have to worry about it as much. And then the farther away, the recoil just becomes a big problem. So to me, the light grip hopefully will be like the biggest one here. Then we have the half grip, which reduces vertical and horizontal recoil and reduces recoil recovery time. Not really sure what I prefer here. I think I'd rather deal with the recoil, but have better recovery time because it's so hard to get your shots back off if you're popping off like burst shots, which is normally what you need to do in PUBG to aim efficiently or effectively. And then on to the big changes here. This is what I got really excited about is this 6x scope. But first we got the 3x scope, which is going to drop as a common world item. And then the 6x scope, which is going to be a little bit rare. I said this in the TLDR that I think this is going to be one of the best scopes, one of the best attachments, most desirable attachments in the game. I shouldn't say the best. It's just going to be one of the most desirable scopes. And I think it makes sense. It's just going to be a nice range. Definitely going to be look forward to using that. Then we have just some grenade information here. I actually included this in a previous video too. I did a whole breakdown of all the damage and distance and timers on all the grenades, which I'll have to redo after these changes. But I'll put that video down in the description box below for anybody interested. And here I'm going to kind of skip over this stuff because this is just really getting into some specific details. But for the most part here, they've increased the weight of the frag grenade so it won't throw as far. They've decreased the weight of the Molotov, smoke, and stun, so those can be thrown farther. Kind of probably, you know, the frag grenade is the most used, so they're probably trying to buff that. I mean, decrease the range a little bit on that, or the throw distance, and increase the other ones to make them more balanced. Then they've increased the damage of the frag grenade, the lethal damage, to about 1 additional meter from 2.6 to about 3.5. Then they've kind of affected the way the stuns work. The maximum amount of time you could be stunned is 5.5 seconds, and the minimum is 1 second if you're like 20 meters away. And they've also given the Molotov cocktail some love, which to me was like the worst grenade in the game. Does more damage over time, I think, and it can spread if it's on wood, or if you throw another Molotov cocktail on top, the flame will actually get bigger. And there's a new animation there that they're like patting their arms if they're on fire. And also I should go back one. They've added an animation to the stun grenade so that if the enemy is stunned, they'll cover their face. So now you'll know if they're stunned or not, because if you throw a stun grenade and you run into the room, you have no idea of knowing whether the enemy has been affected by that or not. And now you do. So just quality of life buffs that are awesome. I don't even know if I would have thought about that. There's so many other things to do in PUBG. And it's funny, people complain about like, you know, not being able rubber banding or like falling through the map, and they're not even thinking about like a change like that, which to me is almost more important in a gun battle than, you know, falling through the map or something like that. Well, debatable, because if you fall through the map, you can't even get into that gun battle to start with, but you know what I mean. Then moving on to character movement, we've slightly decreased the movement speed when holding sniper rifles, LMGs, and shotguns, which makes sense. They're heavy weapons. You run a little bit slower. We've removed the first shot delay when your character is not sprinting, which I've definitely suffered from that in the past. Chambering a new round in certain weapons, the single shot snipers and the shotgun, no longer limits your walking speed when aiming down sights. I didn't even know you could I didn't even know this really happened. I'll have to check this out in the game to really test it out. And the amount your camera shakes after being shot, which they call aim punch in quotation marks, now depends on the amount of damage received. And man, we're coming to the end here. Take one more deep breath. We got boats and swimming adjustments. So I saw this on the PC a while back, and I was a little bit like, I don't know if this is good or bad. I feel like this is a pretty drastic change. They've decreased the amount of submersible time from 35 to 15 seconds. And I get that they don't want you to hide underwater, which a lot of people are doing. That's why they're changing this. But I feel like this is a pretty drastic increase, because as soon as you run out of air, you start taking a considerable amount of damage. You can now take up to 10 damage per second, which is up from 4. So not only do you have less time, but you're going to die a lot quicker. So I feel like maybe just one or the other would have been a little bit better. I don't know. Or maybe making it like 20 seconds. Just who knows? We'll see. Then again, I don't end up in the water that often, so I don't think this is super going to affect the entire player base. And this is really cool. I'm excited that they're doing this. They're adding in a spectate mode, so you can spectate your killer. And then also, if you get killed by the blue zone, the red zone, or from falling, you can spectate the nearest person. And then if you're in a solo match, you can spectate the person that kills you. And then once they die, you can spectate the person that kills them. So there's kind of like this chain spectator thing. And then on top of that, if you're in a team, once your whole team dies, you can spectate the enemy team that killed you. So I think this is going to be really cool. Not only will it make it kind of more watchable, because if you die as like the 5th person, you're just like pissed and you leave the game, but then you can maybe watch to the end. Maybe it's more like streamable, more, competitive viewing scene kind of adding into here. I'm not really sure, but I think overall this is just a really nice thing. You can see where that person was and what they have. So that's awesome. And then also they've added the UI where the plane is flying in, just a little line here, which we don't need. You understand where the plane is flying. But when I saw this on PC and then didn't see it on Xbox, I'm like, this is such a small thing. At least put it on Xbox. So they're doing that now. Then also on Erangel, all of the windows with bars have had the glass removed. So I wonder what caused this change, if players were asking for this, or what's the reasoning behind this. The only thing I can think of is that if there's bars on the window, people probably just think there shouldn't be glass, because when you shoot through the glass, it kind of gives off your position if you have like a silencer or something. So they're just saying, hey, there's already bars in this window. They don't need glass. Don't make us give up our position. Is that the reason? Not really sure. If you guys can think of another one, put it down in the comments below. Then they've added 26 graffiti images to buildings in Erangel and Miramar. A while back, they had a competition for custom graffiti that they were putting in on the PC. So I'm pretty sure this is just that coming to the Xbox One. And as we scroll down here, another great addition is that on top of already being able to change the glow of your red dot and 2x reticle by holding right bumper, you push like left or up and down. You can change the brightness of it. Now they're going to have a thing where if you hold right bumper and click on the left thumbstick, you can actually change the reticle to some different icons here. So we have the traditional red dot and the traditional circle with the dot in the middle for the 2x, and you can change this to a couple different things here: the arrow, the 3 lines, the 4 lines, and I think that's awesome. This is really, really cool, and I didn't know that most of these scopes in real life actually have this functionality on them. I thought this was something maybe like that was just in like video games, or that some scopes had in real life, but most red dots and 2x really do have this function, and maybe that was just me showing my nerdom, but I really didn't know that existed like that, where you could change the color and the reticle so easily on a real scope in real life. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Then they're adding some increased sound stuff here. So they said that the game has always been decent at detecting sound to the left and right of you, but they've had a hard time identifying exactly where the sound is, if it's in front of you or like above you or below you. So they're inputting this thing. It's called head related transfer function plugin to the game that's going to increase sound across the board, which I think is amazing. And then we have some awesome performance updates here, which I'm going to go through each of these because this is the stuff that people have been asking for and is going to make a huge difference in the game, which we've already seen so far. A lot less crashing and everything since the June updates and hotfixes. So the first one we have here is we've improved the character model rendering process to prevent frame rate issues. We've optimized character movement and animation while skydiving to improve the frame rate when multiple players are nearby, and hopefully this will help landing and all those issues, which is a big issue after you're parachuting. We've made some improvements to our network code to reduce network latency, which is great for everybody. The character data calculated radius has been reduced to increase server and client performance. I've said this in my previous videos if you followed me before, but as you're running, the game is loading everything within a 1 kilometer radius of you, which brings a lot of lag and also has caused a lot of the crashes that we've seen on the Xbox One. So reducing this radius will decrease the load for the Xbox of what it has to load around you. The bike animations have been optimized, so hopefully less crashing. Scoping has been optimized, so now when you actually look at a forest, you'll be able to see it, which is great, instead of just seeing like Play-Doh trees off in the distance. And then asset/building loading in Miramar has been optimized, which is definitely necessary in that game. I pulled up to a new town in Miramar in the very end game. There was only 17 people left, and I was rubber banding for about a minute or two in a very small circle, and I was extremely frustrated by that. And then smoke effects, so the smoke grenade and care package have been optimized, which if you've ever been in a smoke grenade, especially in a crowded area or the final circle, that baby, you lag really hard in that baby. And then when the care package drops, the smoke also makes people lag on top of there being a lot of people there. So something you wouldn't think about, but they've optimized that to make the game more efficient. So man, this video has been going on for a long time. Again, I apologize if you made it this far. I'm impressed, and I thank you for sticking around. You must be a true fan of either me or PUBG, and either way, I'm appreciative of that. So sorry for the long video, but I wanted to get through all this in one shot. I thought about making just a separate TLDR video and then a full video, but I figured we'd just do it all in one shot and put it all together. I'm going to post this on my PUBG page as well for anybody following me there, posting daily funny content, PUBG stuff, or winner chicken dinner moments. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter or subscribe to my page here if you like what I'm doing and want to see weekly gaming videos and obviously PUBG stuff all the time. All right, so that was a doozy. Thank you for making it through this video. As always, I'm Blitz5, and peace out.
Bridge isn't even loaded for me. There we go.
There's a kid right behind us.
It's me.
No, it's in between us.
I'm gonna block him.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
What just happened?